Hello, everyone. My name is Justin. Welcome to the Strength, Yoga, and Freedom YouTube channel. And this is part one of a three-part gentle yoga flow for beginners. So in each week, this week, next week, and one more, we're going to be kind of exploring a gentle yoga flow from the ground up. And if you are a beginner, this is the perfect opportunity for you to ground in and really learn some of these postures from the ground up. So today's flow, though, is all going to be grounded. We're going to be not really standing up much at all. We're going to be grounded into a flow, and then we will do some nice yin poses at the end of the practice, which we will do every week. So again, if you're a beginner, welcome. Great place to start. If you're not a beginner, remember that the practice of yoga, though, is always about starting over again. So maybe you can come into being a beginner today on your mat. I'm so glad that you're here. We're going to get started in this position, which is known as hero's pose. So come down onto your knees and your shins and sit onto your heels. Now, if that's not comfortable for you, maybe if you have a block, you can sit on the block. It might relieve some pressure off of your knees or your legs. But we're going to begin in this comfortable seat as we come into this first part of any yoga practice, which we call integration, which means we're going to just center, and begin to notice. So noticing what's around you, noticing how you feel, noticing what in your body is going on as you take a scan from your crown, the crown of your head, all the way down to the tips of your toes. Maybe even close your eyes. Just notice. Your hands can be wherever you like. Here comes Cody, our channel mascot. You may already hear him meowing, but we're noticing. We're noticing. And just like that, when we have something going on around us, when we're trying to do anything that requires a little bit of stillness, and you hear something that's kind of out of the ordinary, like a cat meowing, or maybe something outside, or maybe one of your kids in another room, or another person who's in your home, remember, we're noticing. All we're doing is noticing. In each one of these videos, these practices, in this gentle flow for beginners series, we're going to be linking breath to movement, which is the basis and the foundation of vinyasa yoga, meaning we take breath and movement together. We create a moving meditation. So let's begin with some breath work by placing the right hand on your belly and then placing the left hand over the right hand as we begin just some Buddha breathing. Take your elbows out a little wider. Now breathe in, let your stomach expand. Inhale, inhale, inhale. And then as you exhale, feel your stomach start to deflate as your hands push closer towards your spine. Do that again. Breathe in, elbows out. Exhale, let it go. Feeling the inflation as you inhale, belly expands. And then on the exhale, it starts to deflate. Let's do that 2 more times together. Try and keep your elbows out. Exhale. Relax your shoulders as well. Breathe in 1 more time. And then exhale it out. Take your hands off your belly. Reach them up to the sky. Breathe in. And then on your exhale, take your left hand in front of you and your right hand behind you. Take a gentle twist. Inhale, come back to center. Go to the other side. Right hand in front of you, left hand behind. Doing that again. Breathe in, reach up. Turn toward your right. Here we go. We're creating our first vinyasa. Let's keep moving. Going to the left. Very gentle here. Center. To the right. One more time. To the left. To the center. To the right. I think we started on the right, so we're going to go one more time to the left. And center. Hands come to heart, pause. Breathe in. Breathe out. Bring your hands down to the mat. Lift up and we'll come to child's pose. So bring your block, if you were sitting on it, out of the way. And then take your knees out wide. Bring your toes into touch. Hands are flat right under your shoulders, and then lean back as you begin to sink your hips onto your heels, bowing forward onto the mat. Forehead touches, elbows release. Feel what you feel in your body after taking that first slow, gentle vinyasa as we sat and worked the breath with the movement. You see, that's what yoga is on the mat, linking the breath to the movement. Of course, as you move into more power practices, the poses can get more challenging as we begin to use a lot of muscle, but we're building from the ground up in this beginner series. So give yourself grace. Remember that you're a beginner, even if you've practiced before. We're going to take some more movement as we push into the hands and come up to tabletop pose. So tabletop pose is a pose where we take the hands and they stack underneath your elbows, which stack right underneath your shoulders, and then you take your knees and stack them directly underneath your hips, coming into a nice flat back here. We're going to come into a cow pose, so that's lifting the chin and dropping your belly. Create a reverse arc in your back, so it's like a U shape back there. And then we'll round the back and push into the hands, the heel of your hands, coming into a cat pose as the chin moves close in towards the chest. Now breathe in for cow pose, inhale. Breathe out for cat pose. Here's another vinyasa as we start to link the breath to the movement, just going slowly here. If it's more comfortable for you to curl your toes under, then do so. Sometimes that could bring you a little bit of stability. This is just gentle. That's a great job. Wherever you are, take one more round. Cow pose. And then cat pose. Return to a neutral spine and stillness for a moment. And we'll create another small vinyasa as we begin to shift our hips back, almost child's pose. So your hips almost touch your heels, but then reach forward with your hands and shift into a cobra, which means your thighs will come to the mat, lengthen out through your legs, relax your shoulders, and allow a small opening of the chest to occur. Pause here. This is cobra. Now, slide back into almost child's pose. Breathe in, come to cobra. Exhale, almost child's pose. Here's another vinyasa, slow. Now, as you're breathing through this small flow here, when you come to cobra, notice if you're pausing here or if you're actually allowing your shoulders to come back and your heart starts to lift. That is the key to coming into an upward facing dog, which we're going to go to next in a moment, because that's where your thighs will lift up off the floor. And we want to have the shoulders back and chest forward when we lift the thighs off the floor to avoid any misalignment in the hips, shoulders, or the outer rib cage. Now on your next cobra pose, breathe in and then stay there and pause. Now, Press into your hands, press into the tops of your feet, and lift your thighs up off the floor. You may even walk your feet in a little bit more. Now you're in upward facing dog. See, your shoulders are back, chest is forward. Breathe in, roll over your toes, downward facing dog, exhale. Pause in a downward facing dog. Just to take a look back at your feet, maybe notice if they're at about hip width distance. Your hands can be about shoulder distance. Now, if you need to make adjustments, do that. And in your first downward facing dog, you're just going to walk the dog. This is gentle, nothing powerful here. We are using a little muscle, but we're not really straining or forcing or pushing into anything. Shift your hips up and back. Really allow the hamstrings to lengthen. If you're tight, it's okay. Lift up your heels. Bend your knees softly. Create a downward dog that feels right for you. This is a great foundation. Hips up, back. Yeah. Beautiful job. Now we're going to come into a kneeling crescent from here. So from here, look forward towards the top of your mat. Pull your right knee in toward your chest. Keep your hips up. So take a look at the screen if this is going to be helpful for you. If you need to grab onto your right leg to step through, that's okay. But normally when that happens, it's because your hips are not up. So lift up your hips and then pull your right knee in towards you, sliding forward to step. Once you do that, lower your left knee, and then we're going to rise up, keeping those left toes curled under, shifting the hips forward, and the shoulders come back again, just like you did in your cobra. Shoulders back, reaching high. This is kneeling crescent, sometimes called crane pose. Breathe in. Breathe out. Do that again. Breathe in. Breathe out. One more time. Inhale. And then on your exhale, take your hands down, pause. This is a low lunge. Lift up your back knee and step your right foot back. Downward facing dog. Beautiful. Let's go again on the left side. Look between your hands and remember, hips go high as you pull the knee in, forward, and step. And again, if you need to push your left leg with your hand, you're welcome to do that. The right knee comes down, and we begin to rise for this side of kneeling crescent. Now, if this doesn't feel good for your arms, maybe goalpost them, or maybe bring your hands to your heart center. Just allow your hips to shift forward and allow your shoulders to come back and down. So you're opening through the heart. Breath in. Breath out. One more. And then hands plant. Press into this left foot. Back toes curled. Lift the back knee. Step back. Downward facing dog. Great job. One step at a time. Take a breath in. Take a breath out. We're going to do that one more time. Look forward. Step the right foot forward. Lower the left knee. Kneeling crescent. Reach high. Take your hands down. Lift up. Step back. Nice. Look forward. Step forward. Back knee lowers. Kneeling crescent. Hands come down. Back knee lifts, step back, down dog. Beautiful. Breath in. Breath out. Now, we're going to shift forward into a plank pose, and we're going to lower the knees down to the earth. We're back in table pose. We're going to kickstand this right foot off to the right side of your mat. So the right foot is a kickstand. Your left foot stays exactly where it is. We're going to turn onto this right hand as we begin to extend the left leg long. Now we're moving into a modified side plank. This is our final vinyasa that we're going to create in this first part of this series here, in this first video, first class. Press into your hand and reach up with your press into your right hand and reach up with your left hand. Breathe in and breathe out. Now, on your inhale, push up off of your right hand and let your left hand come down to your left shin and reach your right hand high. This is called gate pose. Yeah. So you feel an expansion on the right side of your body. Let's create a vinyasa. Take a breath in. Exhale, modified side plank. Inhale, gate. Exhale, modified side plank. You got it. Let's just move slow. Remember, each breath links to a movement. Each breath, you're moving in meditation. Pressing into that left foot, keeping the ball of the right foot down onto the mat as the heel is lifted. One more gate, reach back. And then cartwheel your hands down to the mat and then come back into table pose. Reset. We have to balance this out. So we're going to go to the other side. I'm going to turn so you can see. But the left leg now will kickstand out to the side. And this right foot will step back as we reach the right hand high into modified side plank on this side. Left hand is down, right hand is high. Pausing for breath. One more. Push up, gate pose. Right hand towards your right shin, left hand high. Pause here. Feel the expansion now in the left side of your body as your left hand is reaching and your right hand is down on your right shin, maybe just below your knee. Breath in. And let's go, modified. Create your flow. So you just open the gate, close the gate. See, it's just this slow yet deliberate movement that's carrying you. You're riding the breath. The foundation of yoga is not about perfect postures. It's about safety for sure, but not perfection. It's a practice. So all we're doing from the ground up is building poses. And as I mentioned earlier, it gets a little tougher as you stand and do twists and other things, balancing. But this is where you're starting, right? It's all from the foundation. One more time, gate pose. And let's cartwheel the hands. Table pose. Beautiful. Now, I'll turn back towards the front of my space. Here we are in table pose. We're going to come into downward facing dog to open up our hips a little more. So lift your hips up and back. Feel the difference now in your downward facing dog. And as we come into a gentle hip opener, we're going to take this right knee and we're going to place it right behind our right wrist, allowing the right knee to land, the right foot to land, the right leg to land, and then the left knee will land. Now, this right leg does not have to be parallel. In fact, for a majority of us, it will not be parallel because the right hip and the right knee do not like that parallel position sometimes on a lot of us. So there's no need to force this right foot up high towards the top of the mat. Go comfortably, but allow this left leg to be as long as possible. This is half pigeon. It's a hip opener. It will open up the outer right hip and the front of your left hip as well. So we're staying here for a moment. You might feel this in the front of your left hip and already some in the outer right hip. Let's walk the hands forward and fold in as we begin this gentle opening. Notice the sensation that has now started to permeate through your right hip even deeper than maybe before, and notice what's happening in the front of your left hip. You see the foundation and the basis of Any yoga that involves movement, which is our yang practice, which is what we just did, there's the yin and the yang. Most of our lives are always on the go. That's yang. So the foundations of this practice of vinyasa yoga is mixing some yin with the yang. So we do these poses at the end of our practice to settle the body after movement, to allow opening, and to allow stillness. And remember, in yoga, it is all about modifying, adjusting, doing what feels comfortable for you and not worrying about what everyone else is doing. And yoga off the mat, that's even more important. We're going to be here for 3 more rounds of breath. Now, after that 3rd round, hands will come back down to the mat as you press into them to elevate up to an upright seat. Lean over onto your right hip and swing your left leg around to come on top of your right leg, coming into double pigeon, sometimes referred to as fire log pose. This will be double hips, but double outer hip, not so much the front anymore like you just felt. The outer hips will be felt here. So we're going to reach up with the arms, inhale your breath. And then leading with the chin, right? So your chin stays up and forward, like you're literally taking your chin and you're going to plaster it on the wall in front of you. Lead with your chin. If you're curving your back like this in like a cat pose, there will be a tendency to misalign your hips. So keep your spine long, chin forward, and fold in this way. Once you get to a position where you know you feel in your hips, then you can soften your face forward. You see, the folds, the seated folds, are important to tip the pelvis and tip the hips forward and not lead with the forehead down. This will give you a greater sensation in your fold, a greater back bend, and a much safer way to open your hips. You may feel this more now in the left hip than you did the right when we were in the half pigeon. 3 breaths. Slowly return your spine to a neutral position. And let's take the hands back down to the mat as we unravel the legs and send make our way to table and then send our hips up and back for another downward facing dog. We're going to walk the dog here just to kind of let all the fluid flush through that we've just allowed into those areas we were stretching before we take our left side pigeon, which is where the left knee will begin to slide behind the left wrist, maybe to the left of it. The right knee falls and the right leg expands. Once that happens, and that right leg has expanded to the length that is comfortable for you, allow your left foot and leg to be comfortable. You can even take a block and place it under your left glute if you need some stability. That may help you as well. Maybe you won't feel lopsided. We're folding forward again. Maybe you want to come down onto your elbows. Maybe you want even a block there and you can come to your elbows on a block. Or if you have something else like a blanket or a pillow, that's nice here too. It's remembering that it's about you and how you feel and not the way that it has to look so perfect, right? It's not the way it always has to look. Feeling the stretch now in the front of your right hip as well as the outer left hip. I'm going to take 3 more breaths right here. Soften. Soften. And release. Okay, hands will come underneath you so you can elevate your upper body to a neutral position. If you have a block there, you can remove it as you lean over to your left hip and swing the right leg around. Now coming into this side, the double pigeon or fire log rather. Remember, we're taking the same motion. You can even take your forefinger and your thumb to your hips, and you can actively tip them forward if that feels good. But if you like your arms to go up so you can reach forward too, do that as well. Chin comes forward and fold. Your comfort level. You're a beginner, so notice. This physical asana practice, doing the poses on a mat, is sometimes easier than the real yoga that takes place off of the mat. So notice if you're telling yourself that this is hard, what you're doing in your life off of this mat is harder. The anxiety, the worrying, the fear, the procrastination, the limiting beliefs, the people pleasing, all those things we do off the mat are a lot harder than what we do when we sit and focus on what's inside right here on the mat. Even though this may seem physically harder, you come out of it always feeling better. And sometimes off of the mat, we don't always come out of situations feeling better right away. A few more rounds of breath right here. As we walk the hands back, we come to that elevated position. This time, instead of coming to table pose, we're going to be going down onto our backs. So lengthen out your legs and begin to lower down onto the mat slowly. We'll come into a Supta Baddha Konasana, but before we go there, bring your knees close in towards your chest, giving yourself a hug. And then let your upper body lay down onto the mat and take some very slow bicycles. You can keep your hands on your belly. You're just working through the fluid. This is not core work. This is gentle pushing of the feet and the legs so that your hips start to open even farther after the work you've just done. And now we'll move into a Supta Baddha Konasana, which is where the feet will touch. And then the knife edges, the soles of the feet touch, the knife edges of your feet touch the mat, and your knees go out wide. This is also known as reclined butterfly. You can place one hand on your heart, one on your belly. That's kind of a traditional way to take Supta Baddha Konasana. You don't have to. You can take your arms down next to you or out like wings. Just allow this reverse hip opener into the groin now on this side, the inner thighs, inner leg lines to start to open a little bit more as well. And then slowly bring your knees together. Feet are touching. Take your arms out like wings, coming into a spinal twist. As the knees fall over to the right, your shoulder blades stay connected as you look over towards your left. If you cannot keep your left shoulder down, that's okay. The more you do this spinal twist, the more your body will start to open. That's why the upward facing dog and the cobras are so important for the chest opening. So you have that expansion in your upper body. It's a practice, my friends. It's not perfect. And if this was your first time, yet again, I want to remind you that if it didn't look the way it looked when I did it, or maybe it didn't look the way you saw it somewhere else, it's okay. You're a beginner. Stick with it. That's all you need to do. Just like anything else. Bring your knees back to the center so that they can drop to the other side, the left side, and maybe you now look over your right shoulder, keeping the shoulder blades as connected to the earth as you can. Some students like to take the arm that is on the side that the legs are fallen down on. So for me, it's the left side. For you, it might also be if you went to the right and then to the left with us, but sometimes people go in reverse, that's okay. You can take that arm and that hand and press into your knees and maybe give yourself a little self-assist here. You'll feel this in your right side body as well as even more of a twist in the spine. And then bring the knees back up. We're going to take one final hug as the knees come in towards the chest. Flex your feet and then let everything go long into our final pose of Savasana, which is known as corpse pose. You can take your feet out towards the edges of the mat if you want to lay in an actual corpse pose position. This is the way it would look. Hands up, feet towards the sides. You don't have to do that. Go with what feels comfortable for you in your Savasana. This is called corpse pose. As I mentioned, deep rest. Let your feet relax. Let your arms relax. Shoulders, jaw, tongue, brow. Everything softens as we pause here for just a moment in rest. Bring some movement back into your physical body. Maybe you wiggle your fingers, maybe you roll your ankles, maybe you roll your wrists. We'll prepare to roll to the right or left side. You can bring your feet to the mat to do that, or you can just roll over. Once you roll over, just pause for a moment. Maybe put your head on the arm of the side that you're laying on as a pillow, just to notice the way your body feels. And we'll make our way up to a seated pose. You can have your legs crossed in front of you or out long, it doesn't matter. One more breath in and out together as we reach the arms up. Inhale. Bring your hands into your heart center. Bow your chin to your fingertips. As we pause one final time for gratitude for this beautiful community, and most importantly for you, if this was the first time you've done any type of yoga practice, I want to congratulate you, because it is here, as you start with the foundations, that your tree grows mighty, that your dancer poses become longer, that when you start to move up into standing warriors and twists and turns, you build all of the strength that your physical body, but more importantly, that your mental body needs. And even if you stay in gentle flowing like this, cultivating the strength, cultivating the calmness, and the peace. Thumb knuckles to the third eye center. I honor each and every one of you as we bow forward together. Namaste. Great job, every single one of you, for making it to the end of this video. Please give it a thumbs up. It really does help the algorithm of the videos, and the word of yoga gets out to more people, which we need it to get out to more people. In part 2 of this series, which will be coming out next week, we will be standing up more and doing more standing poses, sun salutations, a few other things that we will create with a little bit more breath and movement. And then in part 3, we will add in just a little bit more, but we're going to be keeping things gentle. We're not moving this into a power yoga practice. It will continue to be gentle, but learning from the foundations all the way up. It was my pleasure to be your guide today, and I will see you next week.